for joining me on another episode of Pop of Genius on Urban Politics. And this is a channel where we talk heavily about politics and current events. However, they are supported by the Bible, by scholarly academia and science, and a little bit of my opinion. But today is a very special subject, and it is in relation to the current events that's going on in the White House that has to deal with the recent UAP files that were released. So this is our third drop, because if you are not aware, Friday there was a drop on May 22nd. However, on last night, on Saturday, May 23rd, there was also a very small drop of UAPs. And so this video today is about Trump and Jared and Israel on alien files, and how it connects to the Chabad Kabbalism. So if you've never heard before, Baal or Kabbal, it's all in relation. And there's also a sect of Judaism called the Chabad, and they're very orthodox side of Judaism. And it was founded by Rabbi Mendel Schneerson, and they nicknamed him Rabbi Rebbe. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But with these new UFO files that have been released, things that have been held on since the late 40s, which is what I'm mad about, is because as a taxpayer, we've been paying taxes for decades, right? And for decades, we've been paying the government to gaslight us. You have people who have went to their grave that swore on everything. They swore on their children that they had encounters with these things, and the government said, no, there's no such thing. It's just something you ate. It's something that is an anomaly you saw. It's something that's psychologically misrepresented. So you didn't see what you thought you saw. And all along, millions of Americans saw this. People all over the world have been seeing these things. And this push for this evangelical Zionism is a lot behind this. So for a long time, Christianity and Judaism had their two separate categories. However, in most recent years, with the push of the Republican Party, and I just want to put this disclaimer out there, I'm neither Republican or Democrat, okay? I'm not independent, and I'm not libertarian, so I just want to let you know that, okay? I'm partisan. I vote for the person in these categories that are most deserving for the job. A lot of people don't do that. But getting back to evangelical Zionism, I feel as if, as a Christian, I am a Christian, and I feel like it's on dangerous territories, because there's a lot of things that are going on that are right in our Bible, clearly stated, that's happening because of this new merge of these religions. It doesn't make any sense to me. Past the 5th book of the Bible, Judaism and Christianity have nothing in common. And this is why. Judaism does not believe that our Messiah has already came and walked the earth. And in fact, our Messiah that has already came and walked the earth had his own encounter with an alien as well. Yes, I said alien. No, I'm not crazy. If you go to the Bible, his name is Azazel. It is another name for Satan or Lucifer. Azazel existed in the Old Testament. He was one of the 2 goats that would always be released on the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. They had a scapegoat goat, and then there was a goat that was sent off into the wilderness to never return again. His name was Azazel. Azazel took Jesus on the pinnacle of the point of the temple, the second temple. He also took him around the world. Why did he have the ability to do that to Jesus during Jesus' 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness while he was fasting and praying and full of the Holy Spirit? It is because Satan has been deemed the prince of the air in our realm. So he has the ability to have interdimensional gravitational abilities, to fly, to be into certain places where he really should not be in, but only because God allows him to do these things. And so he continues to be the prince of the air, but there are also other princes. There are principalities, there are rulers of darkness. There are things that we're going to talk about that I was not even aware of later on in this video. So Trump and Jared and Israel on Alien Files. Trump's controversial religious practices. Now, for a long time, right, we thought that President Trump was a Christian man. He was raised Christian. I think he might be Presbyterian by birth. He was raised as a Christian man throughout his life. His family is Christian. He has Christian roots. They're from Germany. Most Germans, however, most Germans were Catholic for many years. But to my knowledge, I think Trump was Presbyterian. And for so long, Trump base was Christian. It was the Christian Republicans. It was Christian MAGA. It was Christian Tea Party. It was Christian QAnon. It was Christian everything right wing that got Trump into office. It was, he is a man of God. God has ordained him, right? Jesus is Jesus and Trump. Jesus loves Trump. It was all of this rhetoric. And then come to find out, during his second term, Trump sparked a debate over Bible tradition in his oath ceremony. Why? Because President Trump decided not to put his hand over the Bible. Do you think I'm lying? He didn't. And a lot of people will probably say, no, he did. That's not true. President Trump is Christian. What are you talking about? He did use the Bible. Yeah, the Bible was present. Two were present. The same two Bibles he used in the first term. However, during this time, he did not put his hands on that Bible. And some people joke that he was really wanting to put his hand on Project 2025. The book of Project 2025. Because he kept that oath. But he used those two same Bibles the first term, and he did put his hands on there. Why? Because Trump was still a Christian. Even though there was something going on in the background that we didn't know about for years, he still was presenting as a Christian to keep his constituents and his political favor with the people that put him in office. He even held the Bible up, making a stance in front of the Bible, using the Bible as a prop to appease the people. He even sells Bibles now with his signature on it. I think that's very haughty, that you put your name over the Bible. Just sell the Bible. If you're going to sell it for people to use, fine, sell it, but don't put your name over it as if it's some type of check. Now we find out that Trump is Jewish. He is hailed the first Jewish president in the United States. And that's fine. Hey, we have the right and the freedom to worship. We have the freedom of speech, freedom of worship. These are the fundamental foundations of our country. I have no problem with that. Trump is participating in Hanukkah. That's wonderful. So did J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance is a practicing Catholic. So it's fine. That's wonderful, you know. But this is a problem I have, and that is this alien hybrid. His name is Jared Kushner. Why do I say alien hybrid? Come on now. Come on now. I've always wondered about this one right here. Something is not all the way clean in the milk with him. Even his arms are just unusually longer. It's not proportionate. Okay. And I'm not alone with this. So Jared Kushner once again looks and sounds like a detached alien. This is the article with theadvocate.com. He has no personality. A lot of people brag that he's very smart, even though his father wrote a check for over $1 million for him to attend Harvard. Aliens and Angels on Jared Kushner. Prophecy, Cosmic Truths, according to imaginarytalks.com. Kushner is being watched. He's been watched for a long time now. Jared Kushner, 666, Mark of the Beast microchip, Ascension avatar. This is a article written by them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that 666 and Mark of the Beast later on. Jared, in an ancient aliens interpretation of the Book of Enoch. So on this channel, I don't rely on the Book of Enoch. I'll refer to it from time to time if it aligns with the Bible. They went to Jared. Jared has been positioned by Israel, by Benjamin Netanyahu, for a long time now. And we're going to put that all together. I'm going to talk about this man right here, putting Chabad on the map. So Chabad is an orthodox practice of Judaism. It includes a lot of mysticism, and it heavily relies on Kabbalism. Now, this is Rabbi Sneerson, Mendel Sneerson, and he knew Benjamin Netanyahu. He was very influential on all of these conflicts that Benjamin Netanyahu was creating to hurry up the ushering of the third temple. They even have their own flag, the Chabad. So the Chabad, deeply rooted in Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, but it is distinct from a generic occult type of mysticism. And there are certain things that they do in this faith, this practice. And remember that Jared Kushner and Ivanka are both practicing in Kabbalah, and they are both practicing Chabad. Why? Because Jared Kushner is a big supporter of the Chabad movement. And in fact, you'll see later on how Trump was brought into connection with Rabbi Sneerson, and they call him, and they nicknamed him Rabbi Rebbe. He has his own street named after him. They at one time thought Rabbi Rebbe was the Messiah, but he kept telling them, I am not the Messiah, but the Messiah is here on earth, is what he said before he died. It is an intellectual movement that synthesizes esoteric Jewish theology and with rigorous rational Talmudic study. The relationship between Chabad and esotericism is defined by several core principles. And if you ever see Jared Kushner in Time magazine, I think it was the first Time magazine where he has that white backdrop, he talks about how his sister gifted him his red bracelet. This is the same red bracelet that they practice. You see a lot of celebrities in Hollywood wear that red bracelet because they practice that form of Kabbalism. They may not practice the whole entire thing like an Orthodox Jew would, but they just wear the red bracelet. This has something to do with like your chakras and all of that. You really have to do the investigation for yourself. But the relationship between Chabad and esotericism is defined by several core principles, the soul of the Torah. And this is where that red bracelet comes into. And again, like I said, the chakra. It's stated that you have 7 chakras in your body. If you believe in that, traditional Kabbalah also practices that one eye. And that one eye, you can see that over the times in different religions. You see that Egyptology. You can see that in Babylon, that one eye. You can see that in Greek practices. You can see that in Turkish practices. They call it the evil eye, the ward off the evil eye. The ward off curses, you use this eye, or it's called the evil eye. And Trump is also a practice. He also practices Kabbalah as well. And in his book, he wrote that he was studying this faith back in the early 90s. Since then, while we're all thinking he's Christian. And Ivanka and Jared Kushner visit Rabbi Rebbe's grave along with Trump days before his victory. They paid homage to his grave days before Trump got elected. They made multiple visits to the grave of Rebbe Mendel Schneerson, known as the Ohel, located in Queens, New York. And I thought it was very strange. Why make several trips? See, that's also a part of this mysticism that we don't understand because we don't practice that religion. And that red bracelet, there it goes. So if you see Jared, a lot of times, I don't care if he's in a business suit, all around the world, he wears that. It's a form of their practice. Now, Kabbalah and Jewish tradition are very open to the idea of extraterrestrial life. Ha ha ha. Rather than viewing aliens as spacefaring creatures, Kabbalah explains them as an interdimensional spiritual entities. Like angels, demons, interdimensional beings. It's all considered in Kabbalism. Is there life on other planets? This is written by the Chabad. This is written by the Chabad website. Angels and demons as aliens. Kabbalistic texts conceptualize entities not of this earth as spiritual beings. Angels and other supernatural forces are entirely non-physical intelligences. Free will. According to the Chabad extraterrestrial life view, even if intelligent biological life exists on other planets, these beings lack the free will and moral responsibility specifically granted to humans on Earth. See, they heavily believe in this. The Chabad movement of Orthodox Judaism. And this is the same Chabad and Kabbalism that Jared Kushner, his wife, and President Trump and Netanyahu practices. Interdimensional forces. Rather than being from distant galaxies, some modern Kabbalistic interpretations suggest alien sightings and phenomena are spiritual forces operating outside of our realm, is what it's saying. They know that there are supernatural beings, interdimensional beings that have always been at work. If you read the Bible, both the first 5 books of the Bible and continuing on, it will tell you about these interdimensional beings. Now, Rabbi Schneerson famously encouraged the scientific search of extraterrestrial life. He taught that denying the existence of alien life limits God's boundless creative capabilities. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Now, this is the same rabbi that Netanyahu answered to. And Rabbi Rebbe told Netanyahu, it was over video, that you're not doing enough to move things along. And when he meant that, it was meant by, you're not doing enough to get this third temple built. Same thing with Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner was introduced to the political world by Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu used to spend his times in the home of the Kushners when Jared was a young child. He talked about it openly. He asked Jared in front of President Trump, in front of everyone in the White House, is it okay if I tell everyone how we met, how we know each other? This has all been by design. In Judges 5:23, the angel of the Lord pronounces a harsh curse on the inhabitants of a city called Meroz. The people were condemned bitterly because they refused to join the Israelite army and help the Lord fight against a mighty force. Now, Meroz, in some interpretations, is called a city. However, Jewish scholars and other interpretations of the Bible describe Meroz as a star, a planet star. A planet star. And so I ask more in detail, AI, what is this? The celestial intervention at Kishon, heaven and earth, the conflict, an earthly battle where cosmic heavenly forces intervene during the war between Israel and a Canaanite general. And in this conflict, it said that an angel cursed a city or a place. Now, again, it looks like this is just a regular city. Now, I think they did curse a general, but the city is not exactly what it's interpreted to be. It's actually a star planet. And for over 40 years, I never knew this existed. It says that an earthly battle where cosmic heavenly forces directly intervened during the war between Israel and the Canaanite general Sisera, the stars from heaven, an unseen spiritual host, altered their courses to fight. I asked AI about this cosmic intergalactic battle. What would this star planet look like? Because I had never heard of it before. Is this true? It said, yes, it's true. It actually produced the image for me of what it would have looked like, or what it still looks like. Meroz. It said it's not as if it's not there anymore. This is what it looked like. It almost looks like Earth with a ring around it. And it's called Meroz. And that's something. Just like if you go back into the text and you read the story of Yom Kippur and the Day of Atonement. And what did they call the other being, the other goat that was released into the wild? His name was Azazel. Azazel still existed. And this is the underworld. This is another place. This is another level. It's called Tartan. And these are where the bound giants who lost their souls. These are the Nephilim. These are the AI created this. I asked them, what would it look like? Tartan giant demons are currently bound in Tartan. These are the Nephilim. These are the fallen angels that mated with the daughters of men, and they created giants. And these giants that were lost during the flood of Noah and the antediluvian flood, they are now without a body. They're just souls chained and waiting for the rest of their eternal damnation. That is fascinating. I asked AI, what does it look like currently? It has like a moat and everything under hell. Now, the temple agenda, this is where it all ties into. The temple agenda is this. They know that they're, and now when I say they, I'm saying Israel. Israel knows that there is an up and coming battle called Armageddon. Okay. But prior to that, they need to get that Temple Mount. There's going to come a time when America is no longer going to support Israel. And they're going to need supernatural forces to help them to fight against their neighboring countries. I asked AI, if they were to destroy the mosque that's currently standing on the Temple on the Mount, if they were to destroy that, what nation would come after them? It would be Iran. Iran is their greatest threat, which is why they fight against Iran. They're using us now and causing this international conflict and shortages of oil and supplies. This is where Jared Kushner, he is ushering in the beast. He is ushering, the beast is going to bring in these intergalactic, interstellar, dimensional beings that we are now seeing. Trump is not releasing these things because of the goodness of his heart. He's releasing them because Israel and other forces behind Israel are wanting the world to get comfortable with these things. They're going to use them politically and through weaponry. Dark history. Long before it was a dump, ancient kings built pagan altars here to sacrifice children by fire to their deity Moloch, cementing its reputation as a cursed, terrifying valley of slaughter. Why did I bring this up? I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to bring someone else up that you wouldn't think had anything to do with what's currently going on. But this person very much does. And they are very interconnected with Jared Kushner. And everything that has been occurring behind the scenes. Because these UAP files are not the only files that have been released. And it's very strange on how they're being released. But before the UAP files were released, we learned about a system that was working behind the scenes. And it was very dark and demented. And it involved with the trafficking of children. And Molech is practiced, or also called in conjunction with Moloch, is Baal. Now, Baal is very connected to Kabbalahism, if you don't know that. These are both ancient practices that the Canaanites and the Philistines and the Israelites worshiped when they disobeyed God. They went and turned to these false idols. Jared Kushner invited Jeffrey Epstein to party with Trump and Harvey Weinstein in 2013. Now, why am I mentioning that? Because these two men did some of the most heinous sexual practices in history. And not only did they do these practices, but we found out who was intermixed in these practices. A lot of the people that were intermixed in these practices were people who had a lot of money and influence. Jared Kushner invited Jeffrey Epstein to a high-profile party following Epstein's initial conviction. So Jared Kushner, who now sits in a position in an administrative role where he has not been vetted, he's not been given security clearance, and yet he gallivants around the world making deals on the lives of American people. Okay, these metaphorical comparisons between like Baal and Molech, beyond literal accusations of religious worship, historians, theologians, and social critics frequently use Molech as a literary metaphor for Epstein's operation, because Molech historically represents a horrific system that demands the sacrifice of the young and innocent for the gain of powerful elites, just like I stated. On his island, the little Thomas Island, he had a symbol of an owl. An owl is a representation of the worship of Molech. People would give their babies, in this old practice, their babies to this big owl who they deemed Molech, and they would pass them through the fire that inhabited inside of this large deity that they built, sacrificing their babies. This is just a modern day version of that, except for this time they now use sexual exploitation. This was the island. A lot of people considered that this island was this building on the island was a replica of a temple, and some people say it was not. However, he had a mattress inside of there, okay, a dirty, filthy mattress, and he had a big, long inside bookshelf that looked like it wasn't built for books, because the dimensions of the shelves were not sized for like a regular books. It was sized as if you want to put candles or deities on there. And then when you looked into the ceiling of this building, it had paintings of half horse, half men, Pegasauruses. Okay, and I talked about that in another video I did a few months ago, where Pegasauruses were representations of these things represented high sexual activity. Now, 2, the mystical meaning of passing through the fire. In the Torah, the primary sin of Molech, just like I said, is passing your seed through the fire. Kabbalists interpret the allegory rather than strictly physical. The seed is a divine energy. In Kabbalah, a person's seed or children represents their creative potential, intellectual insights, and spiritual energy. Ain't that something? The fire of the ego. Fire represents passion, desire, and a burning urge of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. To give your seed to Molech means taking the pure, divine energy given to you by God, and sacrificing seed or children represents their creative potential, intellectual insights, and spiritual energy. Ain't that something? The fire of the ego. Fire represents passion, desire, and a burning urge of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. To give your seed to Molech means taking the pure, divine energy given to you by God and sacrificing it to fuel your own ego, material greed, or selfish lust. You are burning your highest potential to feed a spiritual illusion. So what they're doing is they're doing this for Satan. Everything that Jeffrey Epstein did, where he exploited these children, he was doing this in the practice of pleasing Satan. In his dimension, in his interdimensional powers that God has allowed Satan to have for a short period of time. But they were doing this to gain wealth, to gain access. These are called rituals. They were doing rituals. And who else is in this faith? Jared Kushner. Who else is in this faith? Benjamin Netanyahu, Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump. They're all in this. If anyone ever says, oh, well, that's not true, Jewish people don't worship Baal, that's the case, then what about Queen Jezebel and King Ahab? So Queen Jezebel aggressively promoted the worship of the Canaanite god Baal throughout the northern kingdom of Israel. A Phoenician princess, she actively supported hundreds of prophets of Baal and Asherah, seeking the respect and the worship of that false god. She married into a Jewish family. She got a Jewish king, King Ahab, to put up all of these false gods all over Israel. And that's what she did. So yes, they do worship Baal. New Epstein files. Trump compromised by Israel. Fresh allegations have emerged from newly released Jeffrey Epstein related FBI files, in which a confidential human source claimed that U.S. President Donald Trump was compromised by Israel and that his son-in-law Jared Kushner exercised outsized influence during Trump's first term. He's still exercising outsized influence during his second term. Jared Kushner's mysterious role in the Trump administration by Andrea Bernstein. Jared Kushner convinced Trump to strike Iran. Here's what he wants. Jared Kushner just presented a Gaza master plan at Trump's new Board of Peace event this morning. Slides literally include the quote-unquote new Gaza and quote-unquote new Rafah. Let that sink in. A private citizen, no office, no mandate, no accountability. And he's able to do his mysterious role in the Trump administration. And it is amazing to me that he continues to have this free reign internationally to make international financial deals for his own personal self as well, his own personal gain. He still has billions of dollars in his own personal accounts from the first administration when Trump was in office. And so does his brother. His brother, according to some sources and articles, was given money over a tune of $1 billion through the aid of the Trump administration. $1 billion, that's a considerable amount of money to just be given to someone. And of course, this money is being given through tax dollars from hardworking Americans. This money is not just coming up out of the air. This money is coming from our payroll checks. Okay? Those hefty taxes, that's where a lot of this money is coming from, helping to fund a lot of Trump's supporters, his family members, and a lot of people in his administration. He also add a little bit more context to and tie into the Chabad and Kabbalahism. Its article says that Kushner brothers each pledged $1 million to Chabad of the United Arab Emirates honor of Rabbi Zevi Kogan. That was a rabbi who was fatally unalived a few years ago, and stance on extraterrestrial life. In the Chabad, the existence of intelligent life of or on other planets is entirely possible from a theological standpoint. Again, he famously encouraged scientists looking for life elsewhere, stating that to say that there is no life outside of Earth would be placing an artificial limit on the Creator. Now, I thought about it. Again, my personal opinion is that these things are here not for humanity's goodness. It is because they are here for Israel in the future. And I thought, what other battle would Israel need supernatural forces? What other battle would need to have extraterrestrial life that's been prophesied in our Bible? And that is the Battle of Armageddon. And so I did a little bit more digging to provide some more proof. And it names the forces of evil. So the forces of evil that are listed in the Bible are this: the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. These represent a satanic trinity opposing God. They're all three in one for Satan. Everything that God does, he tries to mimic. He just uses different characters. Then there are demonic spirits, described as unclean spirits resembling frogs. They perform miracles to gather the armies of the world to the valley of Megiddo, which will be the place of where Armageddon will take place. And where is the valley of Megiddo? That's Israel. Hello? Demonic spirits, described as unclean spirits resembling frogs. They perform miracles to gather the armies of the world to the valley of Megiddo. Human armies, the king and armies of the entire earth are united and deceived by the demonic spirits into waging a war against God. Like I said again, there's going to come a time to where America is no longer going to be an ally to Israel. They're going to cut them off. And Israel will be standing alone on its own against every nation on the earth. And this great battle that will take place against Israel is called Armageddon. Just like the Israelites used to have assistance from God's heavenly host of angels in centuries past, they are now going to call on demonic forces. I did a video a couple of months ago called Revelation 16 and 13, they're unclean, collecting kings. And it talks about how these things that are being disclosed, these are not aliens like of some science fiction. These are unclean spirits. These are demons. They're demons collecting other principalities and kings around the unseen
And quickly,
realm.
this is just some more news coverage of an actual sighting that occurred in California in front of a woman's front yard. The news got involved. Specialized investigators who study video forensics got involved and have pretty much deemed that this was an actual event that happened. But I want you to notice something. She had a lot of angel figurines in her front yard. Get rid of those things. Those can become deities or like false gods. You don't worship angels. It's okay to have one out, just reverencing your Christianity, but don't have a bunch of those things out.
To collect forces, whether it be by land or sea or air, to gather for the purpose of protecting Israel. Did another video of saying, what if Eve encountered a reptilian alien? That reptilian alien would be one of these. Revelation 16 and 13, just wanted to give you some context of what it says. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And these are some comparisons of what they would look like. They do look a lot alike, frogs and these beings that are being called aliens. Now, I noticed that a lot of accounts, people who have Rh negative blood types are primarily the ones that are sharing abductee stories of these things. I'm not saying everyone, but there is a heavy amount of Rh negative blood type individuals that have had these experiences where they were abducted by these alien life forms. And I asked why in particular is that? Because in my opinion, videos I've made in the past, I believe that the first child that was born in the Garden of Eden was between that reptilian and with Eve. And they created Cain. Cain was the Nephilim. He was not a child of God. Only until Abel came and then Seth came. That's the last son of Adam and Eve that was born. Only when those 2 boys came was there where there was a divine connection. And Seth is the line that Jesus descends from. These are the 2 reasons on what AI gave to me. Biological compatibility for harvesting. These Rh negative blood types. Many abduction accounts involve greys or other extraterrestrials performing reproductive experiments to save their own dying species. In these narratives, aliens look for Rh negative blood because it acts as a universal canvas. Because it lacks the rhesus antigen, it is theoretically less likely to cause a fatal immune rejection during cloning
tissue harvesting, or the creation of alien human hybrids. The other reason, tracking their own genetic property. Within the mythos popularized by media outlets like Gaia Science Network, Rh negative blood is viewed as a barcode or genetic tracking marker. The lore states that ancient beings, often referred to as Anunnaki or Nephilim, seeded this bloodline millennia ago. Modern aliens supposedly abduct Rh negative individuals simply because they are monitoring maintaining and harvesting data from their own ancient genetic lineage. So that's just a little additional extra added context to this subject. Jared Kushner convinced Trump to strike Iran, and he's pushed by Netanyahu and by Israel again, as I stated before. But the scary thing about this is that this is not for the purpose of America's safety. It is for the purpose of bringing on the Antichrist. Isn't that something? So again, just like I said before, Baal was worshipped. Molech was worshipped. Jeffrey Epstein openly worshipped these deities. A lot of these people are worshiping these deities to bring about why the Antichrist wants the temple built. Now, let's look deep into this, because again, these people know that when the temple is built, that their Messiah will come. And so in Christian and biblical eschatology, the rebuilding of a literal third temple in Jerusalem is deeply connected to the coming of the Antichrist. And an event, according to a prevailing dispensational view, the temple will most likely be built after the rapture, during the first half of the tribulation. The third temple must be built and functioning by the midpoint of the 7th year tribulation period. It's a reinstatement of their temple sacrifices, because they haven't sacrificed in a long time in the temple. The desecration will occur, though. The desecration at midpoint of a 7-year tribulation period, that's 3.5 years in, the Antichrist will break his treaty. What treaty is that? That's the peace treaty. Who's establishing these peace treaties all over the world? Jared Kushner. That's why I call Jared Kushner Meshua and the little horn of the South. He is the one who brings in the beast. The Antichrist will break his treaty. The deception. Because of this event, many who originally viewed him as a peacemaker or a messianic figure will realize his true identity. You and I already see the identity of Jared Kushner, of Netanyahu, of the Trump administration. We already see this, what this judo evangelical Christian Zionism merger is. It's nothing but a front for a false religion. They already have renderings of what is going to happen for New Gaza. In the Bible, it says Gaza is not to be touched. You're not even supposed to build anything unless you have permission from God. They're defying our God. Let me know your thoughts. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to know what you think. And please be safe, be blessed, and I look forward to seeing you next time.